Why did Israeli forces open fire on unarmed people trying to get aid?
That's a lie. Unfortunately, you take too much credit in what the Hamas Ministry of Health is telling you. We wouldn't trust what the ISIS Ministry of Health says. We wouldn't trust what the Al-Qaeda Ministry of Health says. Why do we trust what the Hamas Ministry of Health says? Here's what happened. Here's what we know. In the early hours of this morning, for the fourth consecutive day, the IDF coordinated a humanitarian convoy of goods to the northern Gaza Strip, an area which is in dire need of these supplies. In the process of this convoy, the trucks move forward, so over 30 trucks move forward, going north, pass through our crossing, pass through our checkpoint, and in the heat of the moment, masses of people stormed the trucks, engaged the trucks, climbed on the trucks in order to grab and loot the stuff that was being transferred to shelters in northern Gaza. What happened in the course of this is people trampled one another. The trucks continued to move, and indeed they ran over people. And we understand that the vast majority of the people, tens of people that were killed in this incident, are apparently as a result from the trampling and the ramming and the running over by the trucks.
Can you categorically say that shots weren't fired before that?
In a separate incident, in the middle of the convoy towards the end, our forces were operating to secure the convoy, and indeed, people were approaching the convoy. The operations, the forces on the ground, the tank that was positioned there. The tank opened fire with light munitions, not an artillery round, in warning shots in order to disperse the people from approaching the tank. And indeed, as they continued to move forward in a perceived threat, some shots were fired, limited, controlled, and non-extensive. The troops then reversed and retreated out of the area in order to enable the trucks to continue to move forward.
So the stampede wasn't caused by panic, which was caused by shots being fired.
No, Lorna, you've seen the video. There, you can't see any panic. You see people climbing and grabbing whatever they can in order to take and steal and loot from those trucks that were bringing food supplies, which were an Egyptian donation, to shelters in the north. This is what happened this morning. It is a tragedy. We're seeing the developments on the ground and the tragedy that is unraveling before our eyes. We are in this in order to facilitate humanitarian supplies. This morning we had airdrops in the north. We've had over the last few days airdrops in the south. The crossings, both Rafah and Kerem Shalom crossing, continue to process hundreds of truckloads of supplies, humanitarian supplies, every single day to reach people that actually need it.
Yeah, hundreds less than need to be getting in, and hundreds less than the beginning of this war. The aid agencies say that the bureaucratic hurdles, the lack of security mechanisms, the problems that are being created by Israel in getting aid in have created this situation. Let me just read you Médecins Sans Frontières' statement. We consider Israel's responsible for this situation of extreme deprivation and despair which prevails in Gaza that has led these starving people to be desperate for food.
The IDF is conducting its operations with three core goals in mind. First of all, to bring home the hostages. 134 Israelis Hamas still holds beneath ground, most probably in the area of Rafah. We need to bring them home. We need to bring each and every one of them home now, either through negotiations, which are underway, or also through operations, through special operations, as we did just 2 weeks ago in the Rafah area. The second goal is to dismantle and destroy Hamas as a governing authority, because we've seen what they've done with the power of government. They exploited every resource in order to build a terrorist army to come into our houses and butcher our babies. This is unacceptable. And the third goal is to create a better security situation, a better security regime for all of the people in the region, Israelis and Palestinians alike. It cannot be done. There is no magic wand that will wish Hamas away. The civilian tragedy that is unraveling is a tragedy that we could have been averted. And I would say the war can be over tonight. Hamas can release the hostages, and unconditionally surrender, and we would not need to continue to pursue them. Unfortunately, they have weaponized the urban arena. They utilize schools, they utilize UN facilities. They have their own limits on their abilities or their will to attack us. And indeed, the civilians of Gaza are paying a very, very dear price for the failed leadership of Hamas.
You state your aims there, your three aims. What about preventing starvation? There are 2.3 million people, probably less by now, in Gaza. The World Food Programme says it is on the brink of a famine. What about Israel's responsibility as the occupying force there to stop a famine?
No, the situation on the ground is one that there is still extensive combat. There is no effective control. We are operating, and the mission that took place last night and the 3 nights before it were precisely that, to bring food to those in dire need. Of course, the operations need to be expanded, and we are continuing to operate in order to bring food, to assist and facilitate, to conduct more airdrops from the sky by various state nations that are willing to do so. And of course, the international humanitarian community, whether it's a World Food Programme or other international organizations, are continuing to bring in. Still today, this morning, on the Palestinian side of the Kerem Shalom crossing, there are still piles of food that the different international organizations have not picked up and have just left there. They're not picking them up. The bottleneck is not on the Israeli side. The bottleneck is on the Palestinian side.
I appreciate what you're saying, but why is it that every aid agency, every humanitarian agency, the UN Security Council, why is it that they are saying that Israel is making it difficult to get these aid supplies in? They are the ones that are preventing it. All of the aid agencies say, we're waiting, we desperately need it, we know it's there, we can't get it in.
I honestly don't know why. I mean, if we look at what's happening actually on the crossings, Kerem Shalom is open, the foodstuff, the supplies are cleared on our side. We've increased the capacity of the crossings. We've increased the capacity of the security checks. Everything has to be checked. We do realize that that's a legitimate concern that we have. And everything is going through. There is no limits on the amount of foodstuff that can go in except the capacity today on the Palestinian side. So if the UN bodies, the various international organizations want to pick it up and take it and to distribute it, they can. That is not to do